If you've spent any amount of time on social media the past few weeks, you've likely come across viral videos of an adorable baby monkey named Punch, who had been abandoned by his mother shortly after birth in a Japanese zoo. Now, in ethological terms, this is a catastrophic event. An infant primate stripped of maternal regulation is left entirely exposed to the chaotic, terrifying stimuli of the environment. But what makes this story so cool is that, to ensure his survival, the zookeepers ingeniously provided Punch with an unconventional surrogate mother, a stuffed orange orangutan doll from IKEA. Yep, IKEA, the furniture store giant. So now the visual of Punch, a tiny, hypervigilant monkey, desperately burying his face into the plush, synthetic fur of a lifeless stuffed animal after being rejected by the older monkeys of his troop, is undeniably poignant. I mean, you could see right away why these videos went viral. Now, coincidentally, as Punch's videos began going viral, I had just started reading The Analysis of the Self by Heinz Kohut, which a friend had recommended to me for treating some of my more complicated patients. Needless to say, I had Kohut's dense writing and abstract theorizing on my mind, while perusing X and Reddit and everywhere else Punch kept turning up. And soon enough, almost as if compelled by unconscious forces, I found myself conceptualizing Punch's relationship with his surrogate mother in a way that actually helped me understand some of Kohut's more abstract concepts, specifically the idealized parent imago, self-object need, and transmuting internalization. Now let's first unpack what Kohut actually means by some of these terms, because like I said, this guy is loquacious, dense, and he's just really hard to follow. So despite the implications for the word imago, which is Latin for image, Kohut actually isn't literally referring to a frozen mental image of a parental figure in the individual's memory. What Kohut's actually referring to is like the unconscious, deeply subjective, and often idealized mental prototype of a significant figure from childhood, and it's usually a parent or a primary caregiver of sorts. And Kohut's not talking about like an objective memory of who your parents actually were, but it's like an almost mythic representation of what the parent felt like to be around for the infant. Now, in Kohut's view, this imago image reflects an innate developmental hunger for like an omnipotent perfect caretaker, in that this need is felt by all infants, and it can remain frozen when development is disrupted. And in Punch's case, that developmental process was disrupted almost immediately when his mother abandoned him, depriving him of the safety and regulation and bodily assurances that infant primates depend on for survival. And compounding all of this was the harsh rejection Punch experienced from the other monkeys in the zoo's troop, and even the aggression and the bullying he experienced. I think a lot of us have seen that one video where that monkey just grabs Punch and starts spinning him around on that concrete in circles. That was horrible to watch. But these compounding ruptures created an unsafe environment of instability at precisely the moment when he should have been developing within a secure maternal and social holding environment. Yet despite the absence of a primary caregiver, Punch's innate drive to find an all-powerful and all-soothing figure remained. Now enter the quick-thinking zookeepers at the Ichikawa City Zoo in Japan, who immediately recognized Punch's need for comfort and security. And when the zookeepers introduced the stuffed orangutan, which has affectionately been dubbed Ora-Mama by the internet, Punch appears to have immediately projected that idealized parent imago onto it, latching onto it in times of need. Think about, again, going back to those videos where he's being bullied and Punch just runs to the plush stuffed animal monkey doll and just holds onto it and hides underneath it for safety after being rejected by those other monkeys in his troop. For Punch, that toy is not merely a plaything. It's a piece of his own psychological and biological machinery, which is what Kohut somewhat unintuitively conceptualizes as the self-object. Now, Kohut posits that to small infants, the world is terrifying and chaotic, and to survive this terror, infants project absolute omnipotence, omniscience, and perfect calm onto their caretakers. In Kohut's view, infants need their caregiver to be a literal god to survive. In human terms, this means that even like a stressed out single parent who's like working 40 hours a week and, like all people, is fallible, is still idealized by an infant as an all-soothing force of nature, and that this idealization enables the infant to survive by mentally merging as one, or merging the self, the infant, with the object, the caregiver, self-object. In Punch's case, that doesn't matter that the maternal figure is nothing more than a lifeless stuffed animal. He's projected the idealized image onto it, and we can see in those original viral videos of him clinging tightly to that plush monkey doll after being bullied. And this is to prevent what Kohut describes as fragmentation. Now, Kohut describes that when a caregiver is good enough, and as the infant enters childhood, they'll begin to realize that the caregiver was never all perfect nor omnipotent in the first place. And this experience, which Kohut describes as transmuting internalization, results in the idealized parent imago gradually being dismantled. Yet the child has enough ego strength to develop their own ability to self-soothe. Now, in more recent updates from the zoo, we've seen new videos where Punch is literally starting to be groomed by the other monkeys in his troop. And as he slowly gains acceptance from them, visitors have noticed that he occasionally leaves the plush stuffed animal on the other side of the enclosure while he plays or interacts with the other monkeys in his troop. When viewed through this Kohutian lens, we are literally watching transmuting internalization happen. Because the zookeepers didn't prematurely strip away his surrogate mother, because they allowed him to use it to regulate himself and project the parent imago onto it, the reliable external soothing of the self-object is providing Punch with enough baseline security to slowly build his own internal resilience and enter the social world. Now, interestingly, the core point of Kohut's book, and why I read it in the first place, is for the treatment of narcissistically organized individuals. And now, what I've described above in Punch, due to the successful implementation of a surrogate mother, is a healthy developmental process that most often prevents the infant from developing a pathological narcissistic organization. Now, in Punch's case, the plush was good enough to serve the infant's needs. However, with humans, ironically, another primate who, in many ways, were not that much different from Punch, a stuffed animal in place of a human caregiver would likely not have been enough for the child to project the idealized parent imago onto it. And Kohut describes that in these more traumatic situations, the developing psyche is threatened with catastrophic fragmentation, and the child can never dismantle the imago. Moreover, Kohut argues that the child cannot achieve transmuting internalization, leaving their narcissistic needs frozen in an archaic state. And Kohut posits that, as adults, these individuals will wander the world, desperately looking for someone to project this idealized parent imago onto it, whether that's a guru, a perfect romantic partner, or even a therapist, so that they can finally merge with it and feel safe. Now, as I stated earlier, Kohut's writing is dense and can be difficult to parse out. Seriously, there were times where I felt like I was being hit in the head with this damn book instead of actually absorbing the material. However, reading Kohut through Punch, while also thinking of some of my own patients, made his ideas feel much more tangible to me. I mean, it helped me see why treatment would require not simply confronting narcissistic defenses head on, but allowing the patient's unmet developmental needs to emerge within the working relationship, so that something like transmuting internalization can finally occur. So in other words, with some of these more narcissistically organized people who come into therapy, the therapist almost becomes the plush stuffed animal for them. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. My name is Vince. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.